What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
All of a sudden, we're gonna drop that aliens are real. Aliens, f*** off.
I've seen articles that have pointed to a specific building, and from what I've been told, that is not the facility.
Wait, can you explain why we can't? You're trying to get permission, I assume, from our government and another government or somebody with another country to go visit whatever this thing is. Maybe it's a spaceship, maybe it's nothing. Why can't we talk about where it is? I don't get that.
And then in the United States, we know where there are some others, such as near Fort Sill, Oklahoma. There's a smaller one. They built a SCIF, a facility around that one. We have its location. So I know that the congressman can speak, to what he's limited, but because I'm a private citizen, I can discuss this.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, y'all. We are so close to 100,000. I can taste it. All right, Vetters, before we begin the video, I just have a quick announcement to make. We are going to begin a once a month YouTube members only live stream, okay, starting March 1st. It'll be at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. But every month, on the first of the month, no matter what day that lands on, we will be doing a members only live stream for YouTube. And if you want to become a YouTube member, you can use the join button on your app, or you can just go to the link in the description and become a member there. Now, what's today's video about? Well, it's about a lot. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about. Essentially, this UFO that's too big to move, okay? Steven Greer and Eric Burlison went on Newsmax to talk about this thing, and then Steven Greer drops another bomb that there's another UFO too big to move that's in Oklahoma. So we got some more details on that. Now there's two of them and potentially more. That's what Steven Greer says. So, but we're also going to go over the comments that Barack Obama made, okay, recently, the video that I just made where he said aliens are real. Well, he came out with another clarifying comment that he posted on his Instagram that everyone is now talking about as well. So we're going to go over that, and some comments that Sean Ryan made of what he thought about Obama saying that, which I found to be kind of interesting. So without further ado, let's jump in.
We have a major update here. So on Saturday, I posted an almost hour-long interview with President Barack Obama. One clip in particular made international headlines and swept across the internet like nothing I've posted before. Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens? Now, the way that I understood that answer was that he believes aliens are real, but that if he hasn't seen them, it's because they're not here. Hence the, unless there's a big conspiracy that even the President of the United States doesn't know about. It felt clear to me. It felt clear to the other people in the room. But apparently it was not clear to others because, dear God, did the criticism roll in. And so I decided to reach out to the president's team and ask if he'd be willing to make a clarification to his statement, which he did. He posted on Instagram, quote, "I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's gotten attention, let me clarify. Statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good there's life out there. But the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens is low, and I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us, really." In other words, his clarification was exactly what I thought he meant and why I didn't continue with the line of questioning. Should I have asked the follow-up anyway to be crystal clear? Absolutely. And frankly, that's just something that I'm going to have to live with.
All right. So this clip from Brian Taylor Cohen, who did the original interview with Obama, clearly got a lot of flack for it. And clearly he was, gave his explanation of why he didn't ask a follow-up question, which is fair. I think he just assumed that Obama meant statistically speaking, but he should have clarified, and something he's going to have to live with. And I actually feel for the guy. I thought he gave a great response, and he got a clarification from Obama, and he came back. I thought that was great journalism on his part to do that. I never heard of this guy before, but I thought he handled this pretty well. So interesting that Obama is clarifying his statements. I already saw a lot of people online like, you know, okay, someone got to Obama. He's backtracking. He's this, he's that, you know. Why did he say that, right? There was definitely a lot of stuff going on. And if you remember in my video, this is exactly what I thought Obama meant, and which is why it needed clarifying, right? Because people were going to run with it. And look, when you deal in conspiracies, this is just where this stuff goes. So do I feel that Obama gotten to or whatever? Not really. I don't actually, me personally. But, you know, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I think he was just, that's exactly what he meant. And he was just clarifying it, that's what he meant statistically speaking. And that's exactly what I thought, which is why you don't ask the question, are aliens real? Right? It's like, you got to ask, are we alone on this planet? Right? Do we have crashed UFO? Do we have that? Right? The real questions people want to know. But anyway, again, a lot of people had a lot of thoughts about it. One in particular was Sean Ryan, who felt that Obama came out and said this, that this was set up essentially, that this was a no-name podcast, a no-name guy who interviewed Obama, and this clip goes viral about aliens to basically hide the viral stuff that's going on in the Epstein files, right? So here's a clip from Sean Ryan that he released on his YouTube about Obama's viral alien comments.
I saw this shit pop up the other day. Obama goes on some random podcast that nobody's ever heard of and just happens to drop, "Oh, aliens are real." Yeah, tell me that it's not orchestrated. Right in the middle of the biggest ring exposed in the world. All of a sudden, we're gonna drop that aliens are real. Aliens, off.
And clearly Sean Ryan there is fired up, right? He's kind of thinks it was to just hide these files. And I personally don't think that's exactly what's going on, but I do agree that, you know, nothing's been done about the Epstein stuff, but that's not what this channel's about or this video is about. But just personally speaking, you know, not enough is being done there. There's not enough transparency, right? And we all know that there is some sort of science, maybe UFO consciousness connection with Epstein and different scientists and whatever. But I don't think this Obama said that so that would go viral and it's to hide what's going on. Like, I personally don't think that's, you know, what's happening. But this is what Sean Ryan seems to think. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I guess at the end of the day, there's no real way to verify that, you know? Now, let's move on to the topic of the UFO that's too big to move. I've made several videos about this. Ross Coulthart first teased it a long time ago on the Project Unity podcast, basically saying that there was a UFO so big they had to build a building around it, right? And it was outside of America and blah, blah. Everybody's trying to figure out what it is. Well, Steven Greer has talked about a location of where he thinks it is. Well, he seems to act like he knows where it is. But he also dropped some bombs like there's other ones, right? It's not just this one. So let's get into all of this. But first, let's start with Eric Burlison's comments, because recently he talked about how he was going to be looking into this, right? He's got some actionable information that he's gotten behind the scenes as a Congress member to look into this UFO that's too big to move.
Congressman, what do we know about what this thing really is?
I don't know that I have any hard evidence of what it really is. I've had allegations from both inside and outside of the federal government that there is this object that exists in another country. I'm not going to mention the country because I've heard of it inside of a closed setting, and I want to protect my classification level. But others may say that. I can tell you that it's not in the facility that's been widely reported in the news. But I have been receiving reports both inside and outside of people that have worked in the federal government that there is the potential that this exists.
Congressman, are you referring to the location in South Korea?
I can't be specific to that location, but there are wide reports. What I can say is that I've seen articles that have pointed to a specific building, and from what I've been told, that is not the facility.
Wait, can you explain why we can't? You're trying to get permission, I assume, from our government and another government or somebody with another country to go visit whatever this thing is. Maybe it's a spaceship, maybe it's nothing. Why can't we talk about where it is? I don't get that.
Again, because of the information was gathered inside of a classified setting on my behalf. What I can tell you is I have been trying to get access to even locations that reportedly have craft that are being reverse engineered, that are even close to Washington, D.C. And I'm having a difficult time getting access to even those facilities that are just within a few miles from my office in Washington, D.C. So to try to attempt to go to another country and get permission at that level is going to be somewhat insurmountable, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to try.
Congressman, if you are able to visit this spaceship, what do you do with that information when you get back?
Well, look, if I come under any hard evidence, whether it's physical or video evidence that is absolutely definitive, while I'm going to do what I can to protect our national security and our nation's interest, I will not hold back on telling the American people that we are alone or not alone in this universe.
Okay.
That is something that no government has the right to withhold from its people.
So I do think it's interesting that he's on the same show with Greer talking about this, because the last time he talked about it on another channel, he was like, there's some people out there naming where this place is. People like Greer, and now he's on with Greer. And then he clearly states, I don't want to say what it is, but he does say the place you're hearing where it is, right, that's being reported is not it. So, but people have said it's Greenland too. So, I don't know. But South Korea is interesting, right? Because in a video that I made recently, I talked about a South Korean news station, well, not news station, a news program, or just a program, okay, a TV show in South Korea that reached out to me on Twitter because they were going to be doing a show about this UFO too big to move, and that people had speculated it was in South Korea, and they were working with Steven Greer. And, this show is one of the biggest shows in South Korea. And they were going to set up and do an interview with me, and then they kind of canceled the last second, said they're working on the episode and they'll come back to me. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I just thought that was interesting. So I think the one even Ross is talking about, I think it is in South Korea. Now, why can't Burlison say that? Is he saying he heard it in sort of a classified setting, so he can't really reveal? I don't know, right? But look, let's hear what Steven Greer said when he was asked about it, because he just opens the can and just starts saying stuff that Eric Burlison doesn't say.
Dr. Greer, you have said publicly that this is outside Seoul, South Korea. Is that accurate?
One of them. Now, remember, I have debriefed almost 800 whistleblowers who've had direct involvement with this. One of them was with the Pentagon for about 8 years as a very senior investigator and had baseline clearance across 18 black project, unacknowledged special access projects. He specifically knew of the one in the mountains outside Seoul, South Korea. It was so huge they had to build a structure around it, and he was read into this in between 2002 and 2010.
Okay.
So it had been there for some time. Now, I also know there are others that have been brought down in other locations, and if they're over a certain size, they're very, very hard to move. Imagine if they're bigger than a football field, and you're not going to put that on a semi, so it becomes logistically impossible to move it. And then in the United States, we know where there are some others, such as near Fort Sill, Oklahoma. There's a smaller one. They built a skiff, a facility around that one. We have its location. So I know that the congressman can speak, to what.
Okay.
He's limited, but because I'm a private citizen, I can discuss these.
So again, they name South Korea as being this UFO is too big to move. But then Greer, of course, always has to add, but that's not even that's nothing. We got all kinds of UFOs too big to move. For instance, one in Oklahoma. Wait, what? What? They built a skiff on top of it. What? Skiff? That doesn't make any sense. How big a skiff did they build? Skiffs can be made temporary too, right? They can make a hotel room a skiff. A train, a car. I mean, you know what I mean? Yes, buildings and stuff. Usually it's rooms within buildings, but I guess they do make big ones too. So I don't know, right? This is kind of interesting. In Oklahoma, they have a skiff, right? Apparently that's hiding a UFO. Doesn't that seem like the last place you'd hide a UFO? But I guess it does, quote, keep it secure. But at the same time, you're going to think secure places are hiding things, right? So you wouldn't want to hide it there. I don't know. It's kind of a poker thing. So I just find it interesting that Greer just says this stuff. No evidence. Where does this come from? What are we talking about, right? I find it very interesting. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Have you heard of this Oklahoma one before? And the South Korea one keeps getting talked about more. In fact, Yuri Geller, who you may or may not be familiar with, who worked in the Stargate project, right? Remote viewing, doing magic tricks, all of this stuff, spoon bending. This guy, he came out on Twitter and said, yep, he actually went to South Korea a long time ago and was shown places near where this facility is, where this UFO too big to move was, even shown some tunnels. He put out a tweet and a video. Let's take a look at the tweet. Here I am in South Korea. I was flown there with an American Army helicopter surrender by Korean officers and soldiers to check out tunnels that North Korea dug to get to the ginormous UFO, which is guarded 24 hours a day. And then he shows a picture right here. Now, again, this picture doesn't prove anything, just proves he was in Korea, and I guess this is Korea. Those are with Korean soldiers, but you could just be near them. I mean, who knows, right? Who's to say that he's working with them or transporting them? I don't know, right? I don't know. But Yuri Geller also put out this video because, again, those Obama alien comments led to a lot. So let's hear what Yuri Geller has to say.
Hi, my dear friends. Obama says aliens are real, but Area 51 could be a conspiracy theory. Of course, he's right, because a UFO did crash around Area 51. The bodies that were pulled out of that UFO, some were mangled, some were wounded, some were intact. I've seen them. They were taken to Goddard Space Flight Center to be studied and refrigerated, close to freezing. Listen, this is exactly what I've seen in that huge refrigerated room, as big as my museum. Of course, this is an animated photo. There were quite a few of them, and they looked very much like this one here, frozen. And as I said, some were injured. Look, I've been told many times not to talk about something to do with Korea. I don't care anymore. The American Army flew me undercover. They said, well, look for tunnels, but that wasn't the main reason I flew to Korea. Here I am with American and Korean soldiers because a huge UFO is there. It's huge. They can't move the UFO, and they built all kinds of systems around it. And some of the stones there, that's right, they display in my museum. They wanted to know what the stones absorbed, what kind of energy did this UFO that is still there, standing there, emitted. Listen, there's no doubt they're aliens, they're bodies of aliens. I mean, this I've seen 50 years ago. Few people know about it. Obama, Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and quite a few others. It's going to be revealed very soon. I know it will be revealed. Just listen to Donald Trump. You'll be shocked when it's revealed. This will be a tsunami, a nuclear blast that will shock those skeptics who said, come on. Look at them.
I think I'm just going to leave those comments there and let you guys decide for yourself, okay? I take personally everything that Yuri Geller says with a grain of salt, but you do you, right? So let me know what you think down in the comments of this, right? So again, who knows, right? Do we have UFOs so big to move in America as well, that we've built facilities over, or just buildings, or right? I mean, Steven Greer seemed to insinuate that if you have a UFO the size of a football field, right? So is that what size the one is in Oklahoma? Is that really what happened in South Korea? And how many more are there? Is this true, right? Seems like Burlison's looking into it, so we'll kind of have to wait and see, as usual. All right, vetters, we'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
Hello, you're talking to Mark. I'm from the Netherlands. I just want to let you know that I'm grateful that you have your YouTube channel and I watch every day. But I have a little other question. I got an interview by MUFON, and in 2016 I came in very close contact with a very big UFO. Actually, I stand underneath it, approximately 5-6 meters above my head, and I stand underneath it for about 5 minutes with my girlfriend. She's now my ex, but in that time she was my girlfriend. She was standing away for 25-30 meters, yelling and screaming. Yeah, I want to let you know what I see, the color, shape. It was not a typical UFO like disc. It was more like two pyramids stacked on each other. And I see his skin, I see the lights, I see everything. So maybe if you are interested, maybe give me a call back.